everybody. Wow. This is a very old and beautiful and historic room. We love it, right? We love it. We love New Hampshire. We've been here so much and so many times, and I have so many friends, and I want to thank you all. This is incredible. You know how many people are outside wanting your position right now? Would you like to be good neighbors and switch? I thought you might say that. Look at this guy. He's a Donald Trump clone. He's a Donald Trump. So we're at the beginning of a very, very important last few days. This is really crunch time. Not only February 9th. This is going to lead to one of the most important presidential elections, maybe the most important in many, many decades. You're going to play such a big role. I mean, just a massive role when you think about it. The whole world is focused on this area. And honestly, if our country doesn't get it right this time, we're in big trouble because we're going in the wrong direction. The economy is terrible. Our trade with foreign countries is horrible. They're taking it away from us. We don't have the right people negotiating for us. And we're going to do some question and answers very soon. I just wanted to say a few words because we are being decimated on trade. We're being decimated. We're being decimated by China, by Japan, by every single country that we do business with. And it's never going to change with these politicians. We have politicians in charge of our country who are taken care of by special interests. I'll give you an example. Medicare. So we're the biggest drug buyer in the world. We buy drugs to make people better. All of that's fine. But we don't negotiate the price of the drugs. So we're spending perhaps $300 to $350 billion more for drugs, buying from our drug companies. Now, people say, how's that possible? It's not possible. It's possible because the drug companies have probably the second or third most powerful lobby in this country. They get the politicians, and every one of them is getting money from the drug companies, every single one. You know who's not? Me. I'm getting money from nobody, except for the small donor. Except for the small donor that buys the Make America Great Again hat, which we see all over the place. But we do. We have people that send in $50 and send in $150. But I don't take the donations. And so I'm self-funding, essentially, self-funding my campaign. Meaning, when it comes time to negotiate the cost of drugs, we're going to negotiate like crazy, folks. So you're talking right there, one item, government waste, one item, 300 and maybe more than that, $300 billion. I mean, can you imagine that? Now, there are many items like that. There are many, many items like that. There are many places like that. If you listen to these politicians, I heard one of them say, we're going to try and balance the budget over the next 25 years. I said, 25 years? What are you talking about? These are politicians. They're all talk, no action. But they're not stupid people. They live for their donors. They live for the special interests and the lobbyists, and they work for them. So when the drug companies give to most of the people that I'm competing with on both sides, they have tremendous power, whether it's Johnson & Johnson, whether it's Merck or Pfizer. How about Pfizer? Pfizer's a big giver. We don't like Pfizer. They're leaving the country, okay? They're doing a corporate inversion. Corporate inversion is going to be one of the big topics. I was talking to one of the folks I'm competing against. They didn't even know what corporate inversion is. Companies are leaving our country. You know, in the old days, like 10 years ago, they'd leave New York for Florida, or they'd leave here for someplace. Unfortunately, you lost a lot to Mexico, right? You lost tremendous to Mexico. Unbelievable. They wiped out your whole state. But they would leave this state, and they'd leave other states. For other states, at least it would be in the United States. Now they're leaving the United States for Europe and Asia and lots of other places. And they're leaving for a lot of reasons. Number one, the CEOs, the top people, they tend to be international people now. They don't have the loyalty like me or somebody else. They don't have the great loyalty to the United States. They come from Ireland. They come from England. They come from Asia. And frankly, if they move around, they're looking for the best deal. That's a very dangerous thing because we're going to lose millions and millions of jobs if we don't stop the flow. Plus, they have $2.5 trillion that's outside of the United States. They can't get their money back in. So instead of getting the money back in, they're going out to get their money. They can't get their money back in. So we're going to solve that problem. And that's an interesting one because every single person, every Democrat, every Republican, everybody wants that money to come back into the United States. I think the $2.5 trillion number is very low. I think it could be $5 trillion. It's massive. Everybody wants that money to come back in. But because of taxes and bureaucracy, the Republicans and the Democrats cannot agree on something that they all agree with. They all agree, but we have no leadership. And the leader can't sit them in a room, work out a deal in about 20 minutes and have that money pour into the United States. We have no leadership. Believe it. It would honestly, you have nobody's to even talk to. Use one round a year for those people, but you got to start playing. You've got to cajole, okay? You've got to get people together. You've got to get them into the room, preferably in the White House. You don't have to go very far away. Get them in. Make these deals. Here's the deal. Think of it. $2.5 trillion or more, we can't get the money back in, and everybody wants to do it. The reason is nobody's really trying. And it's massive. So now what's happening then is the companies are moving out. They're moving out because taxes are too high, and they're moving out to get their money. So when you see, in the case of Pfizer, they're moving to Ireland. They're going to go to Ireland. Thousands and thousands of $2.5 trillion, thousands and thousands of jobs left behind. Left behind. Now, when we buy drugs from Pfizer, we pay them practically the price that you pay when you walk into a drugstore and buy it off the shelf. It's crazy. It's crazy. That won't happen with Trump. Believe me, that won't happen with Trump. We have such buying power, it's beyond what anybody has ever had. I mean, we have the massive buying practically power. And the price that you pay when you walk into a drugstore and buy it off the shelf. It's crazy. Because if it's crazy. That won't happen with Trump. Believe me, that won't happen with Trump. We have such buying power, it's beyond what anybody has ever had. I mean, we have the massive buying power, and this is for so many things. I read the other day, I shouldn't talk because if I win, it would be nice to use it, but I read the other day where they're getting a new Air Force One, which we should have, by the way. The old one spews into the air. You know, it's got the old engines, the really old engines. And when Barack Obama goes to play golf in Hawaii, you've got those old 747 engines spewing like crazy into the atmosphere. And he talks about the carbon footprint, right? So he gives a speech on the carbon footprint. He then gets in this massive plane. Him and his family, they go to Hawaii to play golf for 2 or 3 weeks, and they come back in the same big plane. You can't have it all ways, folks. I mean, either you have to be a believer or you can't be a believer. But you can't do that. It's not right. It's not fair. I will say this. If I win, I'm going to spend so much time in the White House. Who would want to leave the White House? Right? You know, you're in there. No, seriously. Who would want to leave the White House? Although I'm building a hotel right next door, which is also located on Pennsylvania, which is going to be a great hotel. Going to be a great hotel. You know, I have my alternative. If this doesn't work out, I'll still be on Pennsylvania Avenue, one way or the other. I'm on Pennsylvania. One way. You know, there's an example, though. It's the old post office. It was built in 1888. It's an incredible building. Walls that are 5 feet thick of solid granite. You almost wonder how they could have lifted these stones, because it was before real cranes as we know them. But they'd used hoists and they'd used genius. But the building's amazing. It's one of the most beautiful buildings. And what happens is every single company, every company wanted it. Every hotel company was bidding for it. One of the most sought after projects in the history of the General Service, maybe the most. I've heard the most, but because there's so much press, I'm going to say it's one of the most. One of the most. And it's under the Obama administration. So everyone said, you can't get it. There's no way you're going to get it. I mean, you had Hilton, you had Hyatt, and Hyatt is a very big donor to Obama. It's a whole story behind that, which I could explain, but I won't bother now, but it's a very interesting story. But you had Hyatt that wanted it. They all put in bids, and everybody. And they wanted Waldorf Astoria. They wanted every hotel company. And Trump got it. And nobody could believe it. I was even a little surprised, to be honest. Although the head of the GSA was fired shortly thereafter, which is, the press never reported that. Someday they're going to ask why did that happen. But, you know, we put in a proposal. We're going to build one of the great hotels of the world. It's incredible. It's, by the way, 2 years ahead of schedule. Think of that. 2 years ahead of schedule. It's supposed to open in about 2 years. And it's under budget. It's going to be one of the great hotels of the world. It's going to be amazing. And a great thing. Now, what happened is they looked at a couple of things. The GSA wanted two things. They wanted a great building. A lot of people put in for an office building, so they were out because they really ideally wanted a hotel. Plus, there's more employment when you have hotels, a lot of reasons. But they also, I mean, very strongly, they want to have the strongest financial statement. And my financial statement's great. I built a great company. There's no problem. In other words, they didn't want to get stuck in the middle where they couldn't get it done. So we're going to build and we're going to open an unbelievable hotel on Pennsylvania Avenue. And the amazing thing is, I got it through the administration without a lot of lobbyists, without a lot of help, with almost no help. It was just we put in a fantastic plan. And I have to tell, the GSA people are extremely professional. They're unbelievable. They're talented people. We're talking about government people. They're very, very talented people. Now, if I didn't get it, I probably wouldn't say that, in all fairness. But they really are. They're very talented people. So, we're being beaten in so many different ways. We're being beaten in trade. We're being beaten horribly with our military. Our vets, and I see Al is here. Where's Al? Al, you're the greatest, Al. Al, you're the greatest. Al, do the vets like Trump? Okay, you better believe it. He's the king of the vets, this guy. He goes to meetings for a lot of the different folks that are running. And I'm just honored to have your support. It really means a lot. Very good. Thank you, Al. But he's been a great support. And he's, you know, had everybody was wooing Al because the vets have such respect for him. He devotes his life to the vets. And we're going to take care of our vets. Our vets are not taken care of properly. They're not taken care of properly. Our vets are treated far worse in many cases than the illegal immigrants that pour in through our borders. And I'm telling you that, and it's true. It's true. And it's a sad thing. And we're going to strengthen the borders, by the way, and we're going to build the wall. Believe me, we're going to build the wall. We're going to build the wall. And we're going to build the wall, and who's going to pay for the wall, folks? Who's going to pay? Everyone said, again, you know, they keep coming up to me, the candidates, because when I first said we're going to strengthen our borders, this took place on June 16th when I announced I was running for president. And did I take heat? I took more heat. And what happened is everybody sort of, you know, the people I was running against turned out to be a total of 17. It's whittling down rapidly, right? Rapidly, which is good. We have more time to speak. I mean, we had the first debate. It was like you get 12 seconds to give your answer on illegal immigration. The whole thing was ridiculous. So now we have more and more time, which is a good thing. I think it's a great thing, actually. But they'd always come up to me and say, well, what do you mean Mexico's going to pay for the wall? And how can you build a wall? And then the other day I heard one of them say, we will build a wall. First time. And my wife came up to me and she said, I just heard somebody say we're going to build a wall. They didn't attribute it to me, but that's okay. But they're now saying we're going to build a wall. They always come back to me. What? Canadian wall. Canadian wall. No, we're not. We're not. That's a long border. People have asked that question. Do we want a wall between Canada? That's a long way. Although I'll tell you what, it's a lot shorter than the Great Wall of China. You know, it's interesting. The Great Wall, it's true. The Great Wall of China, 13,000 miles long, and it was built 2,000 years ago. Think of it. That's before we had Caterpillar tractors. which of course they wouldn't use because they're made in our country, so they would never use Caterpillar. But look, 13,000 miles long, and that's a wall. That's called a serious wall. Then you look at our walls. We build these little walls now, some of them in Mexico, and they build, do you ever see where they build little platforms going up, where the jeeps roll over the platforms loaded up with drugs? They build a platform over the wall. That's how little the wall is. And they build a ramp, and the jeeps go over the ramp down the other side, and they go out, they sell the drugs. We get the drugs, and a lot of it right here in New Hampshire. We get the drugs, they get the cash, then they go back. In fact, I say, why don't they just knock down the wall? It would be easier. They build a ramp, and you see these pictures all over the place. No, we're talking about a serious wall. We're talking about a Trump wall. This is going to be a wall that works, okay? Believe me. So it's going to work. So we're going to strengthen that up, and we're going to make great deals again. Look, our country cannot continue to lose billions and billions of dollars a year on trade. We lose it. Now, in Mexico, they get us both on trade and they get us at the border. They get us every way. And when I say Mexico's going to pay, they come up to me again, Donald, what do you mean Mexico's? You can't get. Mexico makes so much money off of the United States, in addition to which we give them money. Hard to believe. But Mexico makes so much money off of the United States. They do not treat us well. They force people in. They take advantage of us because their leaders are much smarter, much more cunning than our leaders. I have thousands of people, and over the years, thousands of Hispanics working for me. In Nevada, a poll just came out. Trump is leading with the Hispanics. Trump is leading. With all of the stuff you hear about, I'm leading with the Hispanics. I'm going to win the Hispanic vote because I'm going to create jobs. I'm going to take jobs back from China and Japan and Mexico. I'm going to take jobs back. We're going to bring jobs back. A lot of those jobs that you lost right here in New Hampshire, they're right now in Mexico, and we're bringing jobs back. It's no longer where they take your factory and they make a senior citizen center out. You can only do so much of that. You understand that. It's wonderful. They take these big factories, they make them into housing. But eventually, the people with the housing have to find some place to work. So we need our jobs brought back, and we're going to bring them back. We're going to bring them back big league. And you know, the funny thing is that the countries that have been taking advantage of us don't even like us. They will like us more, and we're going to get equitable distribution. That's the way it is, okay? Let's have a few questions. Go ahead. A few questions. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead. You live in Southern California. What are you doing here? Are you a liberal Democrat by any chance? Who told you to be here, Bernie? This is this is a Bernie plant. This is a Bernie plant. All right, okay, I understand your question. And I understand. What, darling? Say it a little louder. We can't hear you. Okay. Oh, illegal immigrants are the backbone of our country? I don't think so, darling. I don't think so. I don't think so. No, I don't think so. They're not the backbone. You know what? I'll tell you what. That's okay. We don't need help with these folks. Let me just tell you something. You know what the backbone of our country? People that came here, and they came here legally. People that came to this country legally, and they worked their ass off, and they've made the country great. That's the backbone. That's the backbone. All right. Okay, another question? Yes, go ahead, sir. Go ahead. Okay, good, Al. Good.
Thank you, Mr. Trump.
Thank you.
I'm Dick from Concord. There are over 200,000 beneficiaries of Social Security here in the state of New Hampshire. What is your plan to update Social Security?
I'm the only one that can say it in the group. We're going to save Social Security. We're going to make our country rich again. We're going to take back the billions and billions and actually trillions of dollars that's being sucked out of us by all the other countries throughout the world that are ripping us off. And by the way, ripping us off and don't respect us and don't like us and mock us. When you look at that Iran deal, the stupidity of that deal, where we give $150 billion, we get nothing. And frankly, the sailors that were caught with guns to their heads in a begging position. If that money wasn't due in 2 days, we wouldn't have those sailors back either. We're going to be respected as a country. We're going to bring back our jobs into this country. And we're saving Social Security and Medicare. Medicare works. Now, we're going to get rid of the abuse and all of the fraud and all of the things that you see going with it. We're going to, as an example, the VA, the fraud at the Veterans Administration is beyond belief. We're going to straighten it out, but we're going to make the veterans happy like they should be. They're going to be treated well. You know, veterans die waiting for doctors on simple things. They die. They wait in rooms for 5 days, 4 days, 6 days, waiting for a doctor, and they die. Thousands and thousands. Is that a correct statement now? I mean, thousands and thousands. That's why you do need Trump. Because you know what? No politician's going to solve it. No politician. These people, I'd like to use really foul language. I won't do it. I was going to say they're full of shit, but I won't say that. No, it's true. It's true. I won't say it. I won't say it. But they are. But I won't say that because it's too controversial. Let me tell you, and of course it's not politically correct. You know, our country has become so politically correct that we can't move anymore, we can't walk anymore, we can't do anything more. Every time you go out and you watch somebody say something, all of a sudden the next day, oh, he said this, he said that. We don't have time. When I talk about anchor babies, right? That's where somebody comes over, walks across a line, has a baby. Now we take care of the baby for the next 85 years, okay? Doesn't work that way. And by the way, I want to tell you, by the way, I was right in that. The great legal scholars say you don't need a new constitutional amendment at all. But you try having an anchor baby in Canada. You try having an anchor baby. Well, there's one anchor baby in Canada. You try having an anchor baby, so-called. Try having an anchor baby in Mexico. You know what they'll do to you? They'll laugh at you. They'll say, what? They'll laugh at you. We are the stupidly run country. We have leaders that are incompetent, and we're going to end it. And we're going to go back to a fiscally sound country. Now listen to this. This is important. With a big, beautiful heart. We need heart. You know, it's not running a business entirely. We need heart. We have to take care of our people. So very important. But we have to stop with the political correctness. Now I understand, and women come up to me and they say, isn't it ridiculous? Infantrymen. You know, you've heard the word infantrymen in the Army. So they now want to change it to infantry person. I guess it's, you know, who likes that idea? Who doesn't like that idea? Infantry person. So anyway, well, that wasn't too strong, I will tell you. So, you know, and some things are fine. But the whole thing, and I always say this, Christianity is under siege. The Second Amendment is under siege. So many things are under siege. You go around, and I just saw it this Christmas, you don't see signs up anymore, Merry Christmas. You go into stores, where's the Merry Christmas sign? You don't see signs. We're going to have Merry Christmas and Happy Holiday. We're going to have Merry Christmas in our stores again. These people are afraid to put up the signs. We're going to have it in our stores. Go ahead. Go ahead.
You mentioned Pfizer in an earlier topic, and Pfizer stores $74 billion offshore. What are your thoughts on companies that evade taxes with offshore taxes?
Well, they're not evading taxes. They're not evading them because they're not bringing them back. If they brought it back, they'd have to pay tax. The problem with corporate inversions is that the money coming back is taxed at such a level that only a stupid person would bring it back. You can't bring it back. So the money is stuck offshore, billions and billions and trillions of dollars. So what, in my tax plan, by the way, I have a great tax plan that's been, Larry Kudlow loves it, a lot of people, they think it's great. It's the biggest cut, but it's giving cuts to the middle class. Our middle class is being destroyed in this country. It's being destroyed. You know, everybody's taking care of everybody, and everybody forgets the middle class. So under my plan, that money will be taxed at a very much lower rate, like around the 10% number. It'll be a number that they can bring it in, but that's not the only problem. The other problem is the bureaucracy and the paperwork and all of the things necessary to get that money brought back into the country are astronomical. I have a friend, he's got billions of dollars, company. They have billions of dollars offshore. He says, forget about the tax. I would never bring it back. In fact, they're thinking of leaving the country, going out to get their money. That's what they're doing. They're leaving the country to get their money. But instead of, if it's not just the tax, he said the paperwork is unbelievable to get the money back in. It can be solved so easy. I mean, literally, it can be solved in one day, and we'll get that money back in, okay? Yeah, Al, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question here from a national guard came in from Massachusetts.
Okay, good. How are you?
Good, how are you? Thank you for taking my question, Mr.
Thank
Trump.
you.
I enlisted in the National Guard back in 2009 during my junior year of high school. I have a quick question for you about what your policy is going to be for taking down ISIS, which is right now our biggest global threat. I know what you're saying you're going to do with Syria.
It's actually a simpler question than you think, because, you know, a lot of people smile when they say, oh, that's such a complicated. Well, the truth is, I will say this, look. I have a very strong plan for it. I have a very, very powerful plan. We're going to knock the hell out of them. It's going to go fast. Okay. But, you know, if I win, and I have a good chance, if I win, I don't know that I'm going to win, but I have a good chance. I have your vote. Do I have people's votes in here, right? Got to vote. But you know, and this is going to sound like, oh, and the press will say, oh, in order not to talk about the question. We're talking about military, right? We're talking about secrets. I hated giving up that whole thing about attack the oil. I was the only one that said take the oil. Nobody else was saying it 4 or 5 years ago. I was saying it. And somebody said to me, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? I went almost a year. I said, I don't want to tell you. I don't want to tell you. And because of the kind of a democracy that we have, because of the kind of a government, I realized that eventually I have to say, we need unpredictability in our government in terms of outside agents. We have a problem, and it's a tremendous problem. Obama gets up and he says, we are going to send 50 young people to Iraq or to Syria, just like he did recently. Those 50 people are right now in grave danger because they have a target on their back. Why do we have to announce it? Same thing here. I have plans that are so good. But you know what? The day I announce it, it's worthless. I mean, you know, they're going to prepare for it. General MacArthur, if he ever heard, right? General Douglas MacArthur, great general. General George Patton. Can you imagine them saying, like the question, what are you going to do about ISIS? How would you attack them? Okay. Can you imagine General Patton standing at a group out here with all of the press telling how he was going to attack the enemy? Okay? We are going to hit them so hard and so strongly. And our military, we're going to build it up. It's going to be truly strong and truly powerful again. And you know what? It's the single cheapest thing we can do. And remember this, some people say, oh, Trump is tough. And somebody said, Jeb Bush, you know, here's a guy spends $100 million on the campaign, and he's down at 2%. I spent the least money, and I have the highest rating. I spent the least money. Think of it. Now, I'm going to start spending a lot of money. I will tell you. You know, just maybe you've heard this, but because it used to be 35, then it used to be 30, but now it's up to about 42. I was supposed to be into this thing at this point, exactly this day, 42 million. That's what I had planned. But I can't put it on because the television's cover. I have television, 15 minutes commercial, 15 minutes. So they go Trump, commercial, Trump, commercial, Trump, the whole show. If I put Trump, 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 people would start getting sick. They go, I can't take it anymore. The truth. So I've saved so much money. Now, wouldn't it be nice, though, if our education, we spend more money per pupil than any country in the world, and we have one of the worst. We're ranked number 30 in the world. Bad. We're ranked. We have countries that you wouldn't believe ahead of us in education. So we spend the most and we have the least. Like Jeb Bush. He spent the most and he's got the worst. So it's the same thing. What's the difference? Wouldn't it be nice if you could have the Trump approach? I spent the least and I have the best result. Okay? Right? Wouldn't that be nice? Now, with that being said, I'm actually starting to spend good money. And the reason is, number one, I don't want to take a chance. Okay? Number two, I don't want to blow it. And number two, I feel guilty. I feel guilty because it's like, you know, I thought I'd be in for 42, 50, 60 million bucks. I'm in for so little. In fact, most of the money is paying myself back for the use of my airplane. If you think, you know, a big thing, it says airplane, but I own the airplane. You have to set a target. You have to pay yourself back the cost of the airplane. That's a big chunk of what I spent. But I'm going to spend a lot of money because we don't want to take a chance, and I do feel guilty. Okay, Al, go ahead.
Mr. Trump, how would you deal with an obstructionistic Congress?
Oh, we have to get along with them. I dealt with politicians all my life. You know, somebody said the West Side Railroad yards in Manhattan from 72nd Street to 59th Street. I had to deal with many community groups. I had to deal with thousands of people. I had people picketing and rioting and protesting. years ago, and I got it approved. I got it approved. Nobody could believe it. In fact, I bought the land inexpensively because everyone said you'll never be able to get it zoned, we call it. And now we have 6,000, almost 6,000 units on the site. And it's a tremendously successful job. It was a great job, one of the great things that I've done. So I built a city within a city. Everyone said you couldn't do it because you'll never get it approved. Let me tell you, sounds like wrong. Getting that approved is harder than 95% of the things that I have to get approved through Congress, and maybe more than that. It was incredible. But I've gotten zoning all my life, and I've gotten approvals, and I've dealt with politicians all my life. Trump Tower was supposed to be a 30-story building. It was zoned for 30 stories next to Tiffany. Then I bought the Tiffany air rights. They said the most you're going to go is maybe 32 stories, and it's 68 stories. There's so many different things that I've done. A building opposite, as an example, a building, Trump World Tower, opposite the United Nations. They said the most you're going to go there is 40 stories, and it's 72 stories. Actually, it's 90 stories, depending on the way you want to count the stories. We count them all differently, but it's a massively tall building, one of the tallest concrete structures in the world. Many things like that. And, you know, you have to go through massive communities. You have to go through New York City politics, which is very tough. And getting those things approved, believe me, is tougher than 95% of the things that you and I are talking about today. Okay? Yes. I mean, compare that to saying, hey, fellas, we got to get $5 trillion brought back into the country, and we all agree. You think that's easy? I'll get that done very quickly. But when you say you're going to build thousands of units along the Hudson River on the west side with traffic and all the problems, that's called being able to negotiate. Or getting the most sought-after project in the history of the GSA on Pennsylvania Avenue, and your name is Trump, and it's the Obama administration, that's called negotiating. Okay, who else? Go ahead.
I'm very proud that my father served for 35 years in the Air Force.
Good.
My husband is now suffering from the water at Camp Lejeune and is dying. What are you going to do for our veterans?
The water at Camp Lejeune. And I've heard that from other people. I've certainly heard a lot about the water in Flint. That's a total catastrophe. The water in Camp Lejeune, I'll take a look at that. I've heard it from other people. I'll take a look at that. Okay, one more question. Give me a good one. This guy looks great. Give me a good one. He looks like a great guy. I'll probably be wrong on this, but that's okay. Hey, you know what you do? It's like Elton John. You always want to finish with a strong song. If it's a lousy question, I'll take another one. All right, go ahead.
Decided this.
A lousy question. Mr. Trump, would you have a plan to defund some of the federal money that is being dispersed to these sanctuary cities throughout the
Sanctuary cities are over.
Yeah.
If I get in, I forget about defunding. You don't have to worry about defunding. There will be no more sanctuary cities. Look at Kate. Look at Kate in San Francisco. Look at Jamil in Los Angeles. Look what's happened in Florida. I mean, Jeb Bush was governor and you had sanctuary cities. Now he says, oh, I don't like sanctuary cities. Well, he was governor and you had sanctuary cities. Hey, by the way, remember this, because it just reminded Jeb, all right? Jeb is in favor of Common Core. There won't be any Common Core. Common Core is gone for me, okay? Common Core is gone. Second thing, Second Amendment. Second Amendment with Trump will be as strong or stronger as it is right now. There won't be any chipping away like everybody wants to do with the Second Amendment. And if you look at Los Angeles, if you look at California, you look at some of the things that have happened. Look at Paris, the toughest gun laws in the world. And they lost 130 people, and they have people right now dying in a hospital by 20, 25 people. So gravely ill, many will die, many will lead very, very difficult lives. If there were people in those rooms, like the one in California, 14 people, 2 people radicalized, they gave them wedding parties. They gave them wedding parties, and they went in and killed them. I mean, there's hatred. There is hatred going here. I think it's wonderful. Our president goes and speaks in a mosque. But we got to find out. There's a problem here, folks. There's a deep-seated hatred. There's a deep-seated problem. And we've got to find out. Before you ask your question, we can't allow on the migration. We can't allow these people to come here because we don't know who the hell they are. We have no idea who they are. Look what happened in California with two young radicalized people, a couple. Look at the damage they did. We're taking in thousands and thousands of people, and we're not going to let it happen. We don't know who they are. We'll work with people. We'll get the Gulf states. They have so much money, they don't know what to do with it. We'll get them to put up money, and we'll build safe zones in Syria. But you take a look at what's going on with Germany. It's a mess. Look what happened the other night with Sweden, where they're forming groups because they got to protect themselves. The crime in Sweden has gone through the roof. You look at what's happened at Brussels. Has anybody been to Brussels? Used to be so beautiful. They cancel New Year's Eve. They cancel everything. It's like you're living in an armed camp. We got to find out what's going on, folks. And we have a president, remember, that won't even mention the word. He won't even mention the word, okay? He won't mention it. Okay, we have a president refuses to say radical Islamic terrorism. He refuses to say the words. And look, whether you like it or not, it's a problem. And I have friends that are Muslim, and they called me up, some of them, and they said, thank you. You're doing all of us a favor, because it is a deep-seated hatred. It's a deep-seated problem. And just like when I talked about illegal immigration, when I announced and everybody was against me, now they're all for me. In fact, they say the reason I'm leading in the polls is because of immigration. In fact, even Joe of Arizona, right? He endorsed me. Who's tougher than Joe on immigration? I was very honored to get it. But just like I brought that up, and it was a firestorm, when I talked about Muslims and we have to find out what's going on, there was a firestorm, same kind of thing. Now everybody's saying Trump is right. All over the world, they're saying we have to find out what's going on. So there's something going on, folks, and we have to find out what it is. Okay, go ahead. Now give me your question. That was a long answer to a no question. Oh, that was a good answer? I'm out of here, folks. I love you. I love you. Al, thank you. Okay, he wants to ask a question.
Real quick, that person that asked about Camp Lejeune.
Yes.
They can see me at the end. I'll tell them.
Okay, good. Have your husband. You see this gentleman. We're going to take care of it, okay? You see Al. Okay, folks, February 9th. It's the beginning. We're going to take our country back. February 9th. We're going to come up with smart answers. We're not going to take a Sergeant Bergdahl, who's a dirty, rotten traitor, and trade where we get Bergdahl and they get 5 of the people they've most coveted for 9 years, and they're now back on the battlefield killing people and wanting to kill you. So we're not going to do deals like, we're going to do smart deals. We're going to do great deals. We are going to make America great again. February 9th, go and vote. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.